You know, I've been playing cool amps and speaker cabinets for years, and anytime I have to use an emulation, I'm usually less than happy, if only because it doesn't feel right. It might even sound pretty good, but if it doesn't feel good, then I'm going to have a hard time playing something that sounds great on a track. So what we're talking about today is the new ElevenRack, which is an all-in-one solution for the recording and stage guitar player. Guitar players face a lot of interesting challenges, both in the recording studio and on stage. And this box was specifically designed to address all of those problems in one unit, because it really is 3 products in one. It's a DSP-accelerated Pro Tools LE audio interface, it's an all-in-one reamping solution, and it's a standalone effects processor as well. The integration between these 3 products might be ElevenRack's most unique feature, but at the end of the day, for guitar players, it's really all about tone. And this is where ElevenRack really shines. We spent a long time amassing a collection of some of the most sought-after amps in history. And what we did with them is something we like to think about more like tone cloning, meaning we took those amps apart and emulated the entire signal path point to point, capturing all of the details that make playing through real amps feel like playing through real amps. We also used a real-time convolution engine to recreate our speakers and microphones, and we worked with guitar recording expert John Cuniberti to make sure that our miking techniques were top-notch. We also developed a True Z, or True Impedance Input, which is a unique analog input circuit that recreates the input impedance of all of the classic stock box pedals and guitar amps in ElevenRack, resulting in incredibly realistic sounds. Not only did we capture the sound of all of these classic amps, but with the new True Z impedance matching circuit, we also captured the way they feel. So when you're plugged into one of the amps, any of them in the ElevenRack, it really feels like you're plugged into the real thing. The ElevenRack is the very first DSP-accelerated Pro Tools LE interface, and Pro Tools has got a bunch of new features that are specific to ElevenRack. For example, when you record guitar into ElevenRack, you have the option to record 3 tracks at the same time. 1 wet stereo track with effects and 1 mono on process track. You can also choose to embed all of ElevenRack's rig settings into one of those audio files, which you can use later to recall those settings on your ElevenRack hardware unit. The dry track makes it easy to reamplify the guitar with a different sound later if you need to. One of the challenges guitar players often face in the recording studio is dealing with latency when recording, which is a serious buzzkill when you're trying to capture a performance. So all the amps and effects in the ElevenRack are running on the internal DSP. And what that means is, if you're recording in Pro Tools LE, even in low latency mode, you can still hear all of your amps and effects without audible latency. And those DSPs also help to keep your computer resources freed up, so your recording sessions run smoother even when you've got lots of tracks. Many guitar players have heard the term reamping, but most of us honestly haven't tried it because it's kind of difficult to set up. The ElevenRack is designed to be a self-contained reamping solution. And what that means is you can run signals back through the box 100% virtually, or if you want, you can incorporate real live speakers and microphones. With reamping built in, ElevenRack makes it really easy to re-record guitar tones down the road without having to re-record your original performance. Even if the ElevenRack were only a Pro Tools LE interface with DSP acceleration and amazing guitar sounds built in, that'd be pretty cool. But it's also a standalone guitar processor. And what that means is, all that work you do in the studio crafting your own personal guitar sound, you can now take all those sounds right on stage and use them live. And ElevenRack has all the I/O flexibility you need to easily integrate it into your existing rig. And because you can fully control ElevenRack settings and effects from MIDI floorboard controllers and expression pedals, it's a killer solution for use on stage. The ElevenRack is truly about integration, not just the integration between the actual ElevenRack hardware and Pro Tools software, but about your life on stage and your life in the recording studio, because it truly is a one-stop shop for the modern recording guitar player. It's equally at home recording a screaming 412 cabinet and also this quiet Nolan guitar. You know, the ElevenRack is actually amazing, and Pro Tools obviously is the leading recording software on the planet, but you do get some advantages when you use them together. And so what I want to do is show you one of those right now. Okay, so here we are in Pro Tools. It's a common thing in recording to not take very good notes or not make presets or sort of forget how you got a certain sound. And it makes it tough to come back later and keep working on that stuff. So in Pro Tools and the ElevenRack, you now have the ability to embed the settings from the rig directly into the audio file. And you can see that's right here in the user options. And you can say, what audio file would you like to embed those settings into? You can see there are a bunch of different options. And when you get that, you get a little E symbol right here to let you know that that is the track you are embedding the settings into. Come to think of it, if you look at, these are all the inputs available from the ElevenRack. It is a full-featured 8-channel Pro Tools LE interface. So you do have line inputs, digital inputs, you have the input from the wet rig, and you have the mic input, as well as this guitar input that we're going to be recording, which is the dry guitar signal, unaffected. So we can use that later to change the amp sound if we like, or come back to it and sort of punch in. And we'll find out how to do that in a second. So we've now got our parts here. If we go and look at the playback engine, you'll see that I've got a playback hardware buffer of 512 samples, which is a little bit high for me. I don't feel I can play tightly when there's a buffer setting that high. And you don't have to worry about that, because in Pro Tools, with the ElevenRack, when I turn on low latency monitoring, it doesn't matter. The reason is because there are DSP on the ElevenRack that all of this stuff is running on. It's not running as a plugin in Pro Tools. And it means that when I turn on low latency monitoring, I can still hear my guitar sound. So I'm going to play like I'd hope I'd play. So here we have our little section here. So we're ready to play. I've got my count off going on. I've got my crunchiness. It's always important. And let's do it. Okay, so let's take a look at these tracks we just did. So I'm going to zoom in so you can see them. There are 3. So the stereo output from the wet rig is right here, and then right above it is the direct guitar sound. And you can see how easy those hit points are to find because there's no fuzzy distortion covering them up like there is here. So as an added benefit, you can actually use it as an editing guide. Just select across both tracks, but use the direct guitar track for your in and out points. You can always print directs just to help you with your editing if you want. So I'm going to go to the bridge. And the bridge is a different kind of a sound. So what I need to do is load a different sound. And to do that, I'm going to go to the computer. So you can load and save settings, both to the ElevenRack itself and also the computer. So I'm just going to pull this one right off the computer. So this is more of a wet sounding thing. So let's do it. I got my counting going on. So it's exactly 4 bars. That's where I punched in, so I can literally just duplicate it, and now I have my entire bridge. So let's say you want to go back and fix those couple notes that I missed in the first bit. Well, I didn't save a preset, and I didn't make a note, and I don't have any idea where the knobs in the ElevenRack were. Very easy to do. All you have to do is right-click on the file that has a little E symbol icon in it, and just say Load Guitar Rig Settings. And what it will do is load all the settings for the rig right into the ElevenRack, so I can get right back. Easy as pie. Changes the world. I don't have to keep taking notes. All I have to do is worry about playing, and Pro Tools and the ElevenRack will take care of the rest. So pretty cool. Pro Tools and the ElevenRack, the ultimate combination for the recording guitar player. See you in a bit. While the ElevenRack does excel at recording guitars and other instruments, it is your best friend on a gig. So in this video, we're going to show you 3 different scenarios on how you can use the ElevenRack live on a gig. So in scenario number 1, what I want to do is use the pedal effects that are inside of ElevenRack, and I want to drive a combo amp on stage. So I'm going to use the output to amp jack 1, which is right on the front panel. And it's on the front panel, so you can drive a combo amp very easily. Because the amp has its own EQ and drive controls, I want to make sure that I remove the amplifier models from the output that I send to the amp. And to do that, I'm going to have to go into the Preferences page. So if I hold this button down for 2 seconds, you see that the Preferences page comes up. And now I can drill into the output to amp preferences. And you see I have a separate one for the front, and a separate one for the back. And now I can easily set the output of that to anything I want. So the rig input, which is whatever's feeding the rig. The amp input, which means anything that comes before the amp output, or the full rig. And I can even send the full rig and turn off the speaker cabinet. But because I'm running a combo amp, I want to send just the amp input. So that basically means any effect that comes before the input of that amplifier will be pinched off and sent out this jack. So I get all my cool wahs, I get my volume, I get any distortion that I might have loaded here, but I get nothing else. So that's scenario number 1. In scenario number 2, I just want to drive a live PA. So very, very easy. All I have to do is connect the XLR outputs on the back to the input of the PA, and I'm basically done. That it contains the entire rig, because the XLR outputs are always sending the entire rig no matter what. There's nothing to configure. So amp modeling, speakers, everything. There is a ground lift switch on the back, so if you encounter a hum, you can push that in, try to kill it, and it probably will. So driving a PA from the ElevenRack is really easy. In scenario number 3, I want to use a tube power amp and a 412 cabinet. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to change some settings because I want the amplifier emulation to be in there, but not the cabinet. So I'm going to go out the amplifier 2 jack here on the back. So I'll go into Preferences. So you can see that it's still set to amp input. But if we listen to amp output, now that's got some amplifier emulation in there. If we go to rig output, you can hear how weird and phasey it sounds because there's now cabinet emulation in there. And here is rig output no cab. Why does it sound good? It sounds good because this entire time we've been using a power amp, a 412 cabinet, and this microphone. So those are 3 scenarios on how to use the ElevenRack in a live situation. Because the output to amp jack on the front and the same one on the back are individually configurable, it means that you could, in a live situation, send a bunch of different outputs to different places. You might want to send the stereo out to a PA. You might want to send one of the output to amp jacks to a live cabinet for an on-stage monitor, and maybe the one on the back to a recorder, sending just the direct sound so you could reamp later. Now remember, all of the effects presets that you used when you made your record with this box are all in here. So that means that you can go from the studio to the stage and back with the exact same sounds you used to track your record. It's never been possible before the ElevenRack. This is an all-in-one solution for both the recording guitar player and the stage guitar player. In recording studios, it has long been a tradition that anytime you're recording electric guitar, you record 2 tracks at once. One direct guitar sound with nothing on it at all, no effects, no distortion, anything. And one that is whatever the sound is you're trying to get at that time. The thing about the direct guitar track is you can change your mind at any time because you can always take the output of that, run it into an amplifier, and re-mic the results. So this is called reamping, basically. The ElevenRack was designed from the ground up to be an all-in-one reamping solution. And there are some really great new enhancements that basically make it easier than it has ever been to do this. So I'm going to show you 2 ways to do it. We're going to do one where it's 100% virtual, it all happens inside the box, and then we're going to do another one where we incorporate a speaker cabinet and a microphone. So let's go into Pro Tools and we'll check out the first scenario. Okay, So here we are inside Pro Tools, and right off the bat you can see I have a pre-recorded direct guitar track that I did earlier, and we can just listen to that real quick. Not very interesting because there really isn't anything on there. There's no amplifiers yet or anything. So let's go to the ElevenRack. So this is my ElevenRack interface. I've got the swamp sound preset up. I'm going to change the input from guitar to Reamp, and you can see all of the different signals you can run right back through the rig, even the microphone if you want. So there's the Reamp input. I'm going to set the output of this track to be the Reamp output. So now there is a virtual cable running from Pro Tools down to the ElevenRack, running the signal through the ElevenRack. So I need to listen to the output of the ElevenRack, so I'm going to arm that track. Cool. It's actually a nice sound. It's not exactly what I want though, so I think before we print it, we'll choose something else. So maybe we'll go to a preset here that was influenced by a friend of mine. We'll just turn off the reverb, so we're just getting the Plexi amp, and I think we'll just record this. Here's what we get. So really nice sounding amp. Sounds great. Okay, so that's how easy it is to change your mind, change direction, change the sound either a little bit or a lot. So let's go on to the next example, and we'll incorporate a speaker cabinet and a live microphone. Okay, so for the second example, we want to run a live speaker cabinet and a Sputnik microphone on it to re-record the result of the guitar track we've been listening to. So I need to set the output to amp to be rig output no cab, and I need to use this mic preamp on the front panel to re-record the result from the Sputnik mic. It's an important point to make. The ElevenRack truly is a self-contained reamping solution. It's the only box of its kind. It really is a new animal. So we have the speaker cabinet here. As you can tell, I have a live microphone. So we're going to use that and this to re-record the output of our guitar track we've been listening to. So let's go back into Pro Tools and we'll set it up. Okay, so our speaker cabinet is set up. Our microphone is set up. We only have two other changes to make and we're ready to go. So I need to turn the speaker cabinet off so that it doesn't screw around with my speaker output. And I also need to set the input to my guitar track to be the microphone preamp as opposed to the guitar input it is now. So click right here, set it to mic input, and now we're ready to go. We're listening to the output of the cabinet behind me. So I think you can see that the ElevenRack truly represents a new class of device. It is an all-in-one, self-contained reamping solution that's also an interface for Pro Tools. So if the guitar tracks that you recorded on the first pass are great, cool, keep them. If not, you can always take that direct guitar track out, reamp it either 100% virtually or in the real world using a speaker cabinet and a microphone. Either way, you can expect great results. So thanks for checking it out.
Oh, yes. This is going to change everything, man. Wow. That is killer. You'll never see me in another session with racks and racks of amp. You're just not going to. Yeah, it's incredible. This is what I'll use making records now.
Sounds really nice. Yeah, I mean, I was excited just to hear that first setting with the Plexi because, you know, it's something I'm used to and it's a sound that I know and it sounds really faithful to that sound. I would totally try this on stage. And definitely, like I was saying, I write a lot on the road, and this would just give me so much more flexibility.
That sounds good. I mean, it's got exactly what you want it to have. It's just basically on and off on everything, right? Right. And it's got some big knobs, you can twist them quickly and easily, which is what I do. So it feels really good, yeah. It's pretty cool. I get sold on presets. That's how I buy stuff. Seriously, I'm like, that's a cool preset. I'll use that. I think the good thing about this is that it's easy to use, and for me, that's everything. Tone's great. The amps that they were trying to sound like the amps are trying to sound like.
I could definitely record with that sound. The real thing is how the does it feel? Because that's the thing that has always been missing from them. It feels really good. Ooh, dude, it does the thing. It's got the zhuzh. You know, so when that thing that happens with the amps, when you ram you're actually hitting the rectifier tube so hard that it's going out of phase, and then you hear the release phase when it's coming back. It starts clipping, it goes out of phase at clipping, and then it starts releasing. The slow release is where you hear the zhuzh. I make my amps do that. It's a big deal for me. In fact, that's why I'm crazy about this shit. Really.
Very nice. Look at that, man. Wow. Amazing. Absolutely impressed. Holy shit is what I was gonna say. So really, that's God bless. I mean, this is heavy duty. It's like I'm salivating a little bit here. Well, that's some nice bite to it, man. God, I've been playing guitar all my life, but I still don't know how to do anything but tune and string these things. The technical side of it, I just have no interest in. It has to sound good to me, right? I was using 11 yesterday, so I'm kind of in that framework. I used the other brand, so to say, and I switched over after about 2 hours. But this just changes the game. This just totally changes the game. So there's your endorsement, man. I mean, and it's not forced. I'm flabbergasted. You're gonna see these everywhere. It's stunning. I mean, it's stunning. I'm in big. Cool. I can't say. I mean, it's like that's about as emotional as I get, and that's it's God dang.
And that is incredible with all of the options that gives you.
So here's your little window.
Who thinks of this stuff? Now that's just coming out of the back of this thing.
We literally plug the speakers right into this.
Yeah, it does sound great. But the thing is, I mean, it don't mean to sound like a broken record. It just sounds and feels really good. It's none of that, tiny bit of latency that you get with things. The greatest thing about all of it is that it sounds and feels right. It makes you want to play them, and that's a good thing. And it's just simple. And that advantage of getting back to the sound is just, it's really great.
Wait, hold on a second. This is the whole interface. I thought you had a little one of those little things in the effect.
Well, I didn't have it turned on. Pro Tools with no boot.
I had no idea.
Yeah, so it's a Pro Tools interface. USB 2.0 is going to my laptop.
And I have eyeballs too, and I now see phantom power and a pad on the front, and the little XLR input. Oh, dude, this is gonna kill.